Namaste, Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Sunyavari Pashkatya Dishatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadara, Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hari Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hari Hari, Hari Rama, Rama Rama, Hari Hari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Sarasvatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nashta Prayesh Babadeshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yutamas Loke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, starting with Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 30. Vaikarikan manojajnye Deva Vaikarika Dasha Digvataka Prachetosvi Vanidropendra Mitrakaha. Translation. From the mode of goodness, the mind is generated and becomes manifest, as also the 10 demigods controlling the bodily movements. Such demigods are known as the controller of directions, the controller of air, the sun god, the father of Daksha Prajapati, the Ashvini Kumaras, the fire god, the king of heaven, the worshipable deity in heaven, the chief of the Aditas, and Brahmaji, the Prajapati, all come into existence. So I will go on and read the purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Vaikarika is the neutral stage of creation, and Tejas is the initiative of creation, while Tamas is the full display of material creation under the spell of the darkness of ignorance. Manufacture of the necessities of life in factories and workshops, excessively prominent in the age of Kali or in the age of the machine, is the summit stage of the quality of darkness. Such manufacturing enterprises by human society are in the mode of darkness because factually there is no necessity for the commodities manufactured. Human society primarily requires food for subsistence, shelter for sleeping, defense for protection, and commodities for the satisfaction of the senses. The senses are the practical signs of life, as will be explained in the next verse. Human civilization is meant for purifying the senses, and objects of sense satisfaction should be supplied as much as absolutely required, but not for aggravating artificial sensory needs. Food, shelter, defense, and sense gratification are all needs in material existence. Otherwise, in his pure, uncontaminated state of original life, the living entity has no such needs. The needs are therefore artificial, and in the pure state of life there are no such needs. As such, increasing the artificial needs, as in the standard of materialist civilization, or advancing the economic development of human society, is a sort of engagement in darkness without knowledge. By such engagement, human energy is spoiled because human energy is primarily meant for purifying the senses in order to engage them in satisfying the senses of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, being the supreme possessor of spiritual senses, is the master of the senses, Krishikesha. Krishika means the senses, and Isha means the master. The Lord is not the servant of the senses, or in other words, he is not directed by the dictation of the senses, but the conditioned souls or the individual living entities are servants of the senses. They are conducted by the direction or dictation of the senses, and therefore materialist civilization is a kind of engagement in sense gratification only. The standard of human civilization should be to cure the disease of sense gratification, and one can do this simply by becoming an agent for satisfying the spiritual senses of the Lord. The senses are never to be stopped in their engagements, but one should purify them by engaging them in the pure service of sense gratification of the master of the senses. This is the instruction of the whole Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna wanted first of all to satisfy his own senses by his decision not to fight with his kinsmen and friends. But Lord Sri Krishna taught him the Bhagavad Gita just to purify Arjuna's decision for sense gratification. Therefore, Arjuna agreed to satisfy the senses of the Lord, and thus he fought the battle of Kurukshetra, as the Lord desired. The Vedas instruct us to get out of the existence of darkness and go forward on the path of light. Tamasi ma jayotir gama. The path of light is therefore to satisfy the senses of the Lord. Misguided men, or less intelligent men, follow the path of self-realization without any attempt to satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord by following the path shown by Arjuna and other devotees of the Lord. On the contrary, they artificially try to stop the activities of the senses, yoga system, or they deny the transcendental senses of the Lord, jnana system. The devotees, however, are above the yogis and the jnanis because pure devotees do not deny the senses of the Lord. They want to satisfy the senses of the Lord. Only because of the darkness of ignorance do the yogis and jnanis deny the senses of the Lord and thus artificially try to control the activities of the diseased senses. In the diseased condition of the senses, there is too much engagement of the senses in increasing material needs. When one comes to see the disadvantage of aggravating the sense activities, one is called a Jnani. When one tries to stop the activities of the senses by the practice of yogic principles, he is called a yogi. But when one is fully aware of the transcendental senses of the Lord and tries to satisfy his senses, one is called a devotee of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord do not try to deny the senses of the Lord, nor do they artificially stop the actions of the senses, but they do voluntarily engage the purified senses in the service of the master of the senses, as was done by Arjuna, thereby easily attaining the perfection of satisfying the Lord, the ultimate goal of all perfection. Okay, now to go back and reread Canto 2, Chapter 5, Text 30. From the mode of goodness, the mind is generated and becomes manifest, as also the 10 demigods controlling the bodily movements. Such demigods are known as the controller of directions, the controller of air, the sun god, the father of Daksha Prajapati, the Ashvini Kumaras, the fire god, the king of heaven, the worshipful deity in heaven, the chief of the Adityas, and Brahmaji, the Prajapati, all come into existence. All right. This there are much reference in the verse to details that I'm not very familiar with. But one thing that we all realize at this point, I think, is this concept that we're here in this life to glorify the Lord, and that we should dedicate all of our actions to serving the Lord. Um, Instead of using the senses for our own gratification, we should attempt to gratify the Lord by dedicating everything we do to Him, and thus we will receive the benefit of, improving our spiritual lives, and the we will get closer to the ultimate goal of of all perfection, which is basically satisfying the Lord. And we're given the example here of Arjuna, who at the beginning didn't want to fight because he was only concerned with his own feelings and his own sense gratification, and how can I possibly fight when my family and friends and teachers are all there on both sides, on the other side, and how can I do this? And but Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita right there on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, to answering all of his questions, to show him, convince him that it was absolutely necessary, that that was his role, as a warrior. His role was to fight this in this war, and for the glorification of the Lord, he needed to do it, and all of his questions were answered, and we know that he was satisfied with the answers, and uh, he took shelter of the Lord, and went ahead and did what his duty was. Um, Other people are misguided, and they they try to follow some kind of path without putting the Lord in the center of it, and they try through different types of yoga to purify their senses, or they try to purify their thought with certain knowledge, but as in the Jnani um, yogis, but they don't make it there unless they realize that they should be doing all of this in order to serve the Lord. Um, so I think I pretty much covered what it is that I would like to say, and I give you a chance now, Bhakti and Amy, to add what stuck out to you in this purport and in this verse.
Yes, to me, it stuck out um, the beautiful thing that the Vedas instruct us to get out of the existence of darkness, and that beautiful mantra, Tamasi Majotir Gamaya, to lead us from darkness to light, right? Which is also from ignorance to wisdom, or to the Lord, because the Lord is the ultimate absolute truth. And I was just wondering, because I see that there's like the yogis and the gyanis. The yogis and the gyanis are trying to control their senses, but they're doing it in a wrong way, because they're ignorant, or they're in ignorance somehow. But they're at least trying to purify their senses in some way. So at least that's a little valid there, because eventually they'll get to the point where but where they will get to the bhakti. But the ideal would be that you would get to the bhakti first, and that you would be establishing Krishna consciousness first, and then after you're establishing Krishna consciousness, that would be the ideal to then have the knowledge, and then you'll realize that you don't really need other the yoga, the other types of yoga. But that did stick out to me, and the fact that want to please the Lord, and I had a question, but you answered it, because um when you were exposing your thoughts, you said that, they voluntarily, try to attain the perfection of satisfying the Lord through offering him everything that you do. So that was going to be my question, like how do I know that I'm actually, whatever I'm doing is satisfying the Lord? um and I try to feel like I'm being guided, and that everything that I'm doing is for the Lord, because that's what I want to do. I want to do anything that will please the Lord. And sometimes I try to also think of Krishna every day, at every point in time, and everything that happens to me, good or bad. I always try to, say Hare Krishna, or just to think of Krishna, maybe a mention, maybe just the thought of him in whatever situation that I'm in. And that kind of makes me feel a little bit safer, that I'm kind of trying to do God's will, or at least that I don't want to like make a mistake in that way, that I want to satisfy the Lord, is what um calls out to me the most in this verse, that the satisfaction of the Lord is the important thing, and not the satisfaction of our own senses. And that the demigods, as well as ourselves, since we're imperfect, we try to gratify our own senses, and we're here in this material world. So the nature of being human is to make mistakes, and to feel, because we're in this body, and it's a material body in a material world. So you have to kind of like always take yourself back to Krishna whenever you're like doing whatever, just to not like think of satisfying just yourself.
Yes.
Um, that's what I was thinking about that. But otherwise, you did a beautiful exposition of this verse.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. It is very important to remember Krishna as much as possible, all of the time, if possible, because otherwise we get all tied up in our own emotions, our own feelings, our own fears, our hopes and fears, our satisfactions, our disappointments, and if we can just remember that it's all part of some plan that Krishna has for us, then that can calm us down and make us realize, everything really is okay because Krishna is there. I'm devoting myself to Krishna. I'm thinking of Krishna, and Krishna will take care of everything for me. So it's not that we don't make any efforts. We have to make our efforts, and yes, we are going to feel a little bit of those feelings, maybe disappointments or fears or whatever. But if we just keep our turning our mind back to Krishna, which is very efficiently done by simply chanting rounds, will bring your mind back to Krishna at any moment of the day. You find that you can deal with whatever life ekes out, whatever life gives to you. You can deal with it because you realize that Krishna is there, and you also accept that you have some kind of karmic reactions in your life, and but that in the end everything is going to be okay as long as we devote ourselves to pleasing Krishna, right? So, would you like to comment more on that, or shall we go on to the next verse?
I think we can go on to the next verse. That was perfect.
Okay, you can go ahead and read it. Text 31.
Mhm. You want me to read it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So text 2 5:31.
Yes.
Taijasattu vikurvanad indriyani dashabhavan jnana shakti kriya shaktir buddhihi pranascha taijasao shrotram tvagrana drigjihva vagdor medrang grihi payavaha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Right.
By further transformation of the mode of passion, the sense organs like the ear, skin, nose, eyes, tongue, mouth, hands, genitals, legs, and the outlet for evacuating, together with intelligence and living energy, are all generated. The living condition in material, purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The living condition in material existence depends more or less on one's intelligence and powerful living energy. Intelligence to counteract the hard struggle for existence is assisted by the senses for acquiring knowledge, and the living energy maintains himself by manipulating the active organs, like the hands and legs. But on the whole, the struggle for existence is an exertion of the motive passion. Therefore, all the sense organs headed by intelligence and the living energy prana are different products and byproducts of the second mode of nature called passion. This mode of passion, however, is the product of the air element as described before. And I'm going to read the translation again. By further transformation of the mode of passion, the sense organs like the ear, skin, nose, eyes, tongue, mouths, hand, genitals, legs, and the outlet for evacuating, together with intelligence and living energy, are all generated. So, what I'm getting from this verse right now is that to be alive in this material world, all of these body parts are given to us in this material body to be able to execute our intelligence and our living energy in the material world. And then there's a hard struggle for existence because in this material world, there's a lot of suffering and death and fighting, especially in this age of Kali, and just for its subsistence even, because as we go further into the Kali Yuga era, as time passes, it gets a little bit harder each time, and you can see that because even subsistence gets harder, getting jobs gets harder, putting food on the table gets harder, and just like things, for example, in people in their jobs, it also gets harder because people are fighting for positions, for better pay, for better time off, and all of this is from the mode of passion, and because of the mode of passion, you have to fight to defend yourself, to assert yourself in this world, and the most powerful one wins, and the most powerful is that one that has the most knowledge and the most strength and the most um maybe forceful in a way sometimes, which is not ideal, but that could go into the mode of tamas as well, with the forcefulness. But yes, rajas is ruled. This world is ruled by rajas basically, and the mode of passion is the one that basically makes you live your day to day by just sleeping, waking, eating, mating, fighting, and defending yourself. And it's like a cycle. It feels like a cycle, maybe like samsara also, that you kind of have to break that cycle and become aware in Krishna consciousness of your position, which is a servant of the Lord, to be able to break out of the Raja's existence. And that's the only way that you can actually achieve that. That's my 50 cents for today for that verse.
Yes, what strikes me is that we forgot in the previous verse, but it ties together with this verse, that all is generated from the Lord. It says, if we go back to the other verse for a minute, it says, from the mode of goodness the mind is generated and becomes manifest, as also the 10 demigods controlling the bodily movements. So here in this next verse, we have the bodily functions defined, the sense organs like the ear, skin, nose, eyes, tongue, mouth, hands, genitals, legs, and the outlet for evacuating. There go the 10 sense objects that the 10 demigods control. And so this ties the two verses together. But the demigods are only doing the work of Krishna. Krishna is the one who is controlling all or is instructing all. And but he gives like the different functions to the different demigods to take care of. And I wish I knew a little bit more about all of the details of those 10 demigods, who is the most concerned with each one of these sense organs. But I don't think there's that detail is given to us here. But that's what strikes me here, is that these things are all connected and are all kind of outside of our control. We think we control, or we think we can control, but they're being generated by the Supreme Lord with the help of the demigods. So yeah, and so all
It's
come into
also
existence.
interesting. Also, sorry to interrupt you.
Go
It's
ahead.
also interesting to me that it's the verse in the 30th verse. It says, from the mode of goodness, the mind is generated and becomes manifest. So technically, the mind would be in the mode of goodness. Then the body in the next verse is talking about the mode of passion. So that's also maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speculate, but in the mind, when you chant Shruti, or whatever you offer to the Lord, even in your mind, it's even purer than if you chant it out loud. And of course, for the Maha Mantra and for the purpose of Bhakti Yoga, we need to hear and speak the mantra, the Maha Mantra. So of course that's the 9 processes, but just stating the fact that it called to my attention that in the mind is the mode of goodness, the body is the mode of passion, and then the material world is the mode of ignorance, the tamas. And therefore, like, whenever you say something shruti in your mind, it's pure. There's purity in whatever you offer in your mind. That's Sorry to interrupt you for that, but
No,
that's
no,
called my
that's
attention.
fine. It's certainly your turn to speak. Plus, I have a weak internet connection, so I lost a little bit of your speaking in the middle. But yes, from the mode of goodness, the mind is generated. But tamas is the full display of material creation under the spell of darkness of ignorance. This is, the modes are definitely discussed here. There's definitely the and the mode of passion being what keeps us connected, in our involvement in the material world, and forgetting to go back through the mode of goodness back into our back to Godhead, right? So these factors are definitely at work in our lives, and it's our duty in this human form to get control of that, to get control of these modes in order to lead us back to where it is we should be, back to Godhead, back to our relationship with the Supreme Lord, you know. So
We
I
can
think,
move
yeah,
forward.
yeah,
Mhm.
I think we can go on and do one more text,
Yeah.
text
Yes.
32. Yadaite sangata bhava bhutendriya mano gunaha yada yatana nirmane Na Chekur Brahma Vitama. Translation. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. Okay, going on to the purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Jai. The different types of bodily construction of the living entities are exactly like different types of motor cars manufactured by assembling assembling the allied motor parts. When the car is ready, the driver sits in the car and moves it as he desires. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse 61. The living entity is as if seated on the machine of the body, and the car of the body is moving by the control of material nature, just as the railway trains are moving under the direction of the controller. The living entities, however, are not the bodies. They are separate from the cars of the body. But the less intelligent materialist scientists cannot understand the process of assembling the parts of the body, namely the senses, the mind, and the qualities of the material modes. Every living entity is a spiritual spark, part and parcel of the Supreme Being, and by the kindness of the Lord, for the Father is kind to his sons, the individual living beings are given a little freedom to act according to their will, to lord it over the material nature. Just as a father gives some playthings to the crying child to satisfy him, the whole material creation is made possible by the will of the Lord to allow the bewildered living entities to lord it over things as they desire, although under the control of the agent of the Lord. The living entities are exactly like small children playing the material field under the control of the maidservant of the Lord, nature. They accept the Maya, or the maidservant, as all in all, and thus wrongly conceive the supreme truth to be feminine, goddess Durga, etc. The foolish childlike materialists cannot reach beyond the conception of the maidservant, material nature, but the intelligent grown-up sons of the Lord know well that all the acts of material nature are controlled by the Lord, just as a maidservant is under the control of the master, the father of the undeveloped children. The parts of the body, such as the senses, are the creation of Mahatattva, and when they are assembled by the will of the Lord, the material body comes into existence, and the living entity is allowed to use it for further activities. This is explained as follows. Okay, going back to read text 32 again. O Narada, best of the transcendentalists, the forms of the body cannot take place as long as these created parts, namely the elements, senses, mind, and modes of nature, are not assembled. So it appears to me like this life of ours is like a puzzle, to put all the parts together. Here it's described as, needing to put all the parts of a car together in order to be able to run it. And it's also described as giving the children a bunch of playthings to pacify them and give them something to control over, but these things need to be assembled through our devotional service. When we do our devotional service, this is what their place, and so that the Lord can respond to us, and the Lord is the controller. We're just like the servants, like the maids, and there's a few mentions of things that are masculine and feminine, but this has less to do with what sex we are, more to do with what these characteristics are considered to be. And the characteristics of the feminine, I guess, being considered to be more of a servant. That's why I guess sometimes it's easier for feminine people, like women and other feminine people, to engage in service of the Lord, because they have that propensity to serve. However, there needs to be a realization, this masculine quality, I guess, of realization of the acts of the material nature need to be dedicated to the Lord, and the Lord will take over. He's the master, and he will come in and take over. And yeah, that's all I can come up with at the moment. Maybe if you have
Um,
something to say,
Thank
respond.
you. I was gonna say that, well, there was a little cliffhanger there at the end in the purport from His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, because he's sending us to the next verse immediately. Like, well, now you have to know what's going to happen in the next verse. Because in the end of it, he says, the parts of the body, such as the senses, are the creation of the Mahatattva. And when they are assembled by the will of the Lord, the material body comes into existence. And the living entity is allowed to use it for further activities. And this is explained as follows. So you naturally have to go to see what activities we're going to use the body for, as according to the Lord. And he's going to explain it in the next verse. So I think we're going to have to make it there. But also the other thing that called my attention is this comparison of us as children of the Lord and as his children. We're here in this playground, which is I kind of like that analogy of that we're in a material playground. And it's like, our dad is working, and the maidservant is the one that's taking us to the park to play in the playground, which is Maya. And that's why other it says here, like other, like foolish childlike materialists cannot like fathom the thought of God as other than to be feminine, like Durga, and but maybe Mother Mary, or maybe any other feminine conception of the Lord. Of course, it's speaking about the feminine principle, because also Maya, which is the maidservant of the Lord, is in a feminine aspect, as we see it here, and it speaks of it as being nature in the material world. So we're here playing in the playground of the material world, with Maya watching over us and testing us to see if we're going to be able to be actually in the presence of the Lord. Um, I guess there's also some purification part there, and as we get to be purified and Maya tests us more, then maybe we reach the point where we can actually meet the Lord. Um, and all these playthings that the Lord gives us to pacify us. Also, it could be like sometimes there are CDs that the Lord gives us, and if you're pacified with that, maybe you'll just like stop reaching out for him or crying out for him. And if you're really smart, then you'll not be distracted by the plaything, and you'll just try to continue to search for the Lord, right? That's kind of part of the path, I guess. And those were the things that called out to me from this verse. So if you don't have anything to say, maybe we can get to the next
Go
verse.
ahead. We're on the cliffhanger. You can go ahead and read the next verse.
Okay, so 2:533. Tada samhatya chanonyam Bhagavat Shakti Choditaha Sad Aswatam Sat Ashatwam Upadaya Chobayam Sasur Jur hi yadaha. That was a hard one, the last one. That pronunciation of Sasre Jur hi yadaha. Okay, translation. Thus, when all these became assembled by force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and the secondary causes of creation. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Jai.
In this verse, it is clearly mentioned that the Supreme Personality of Godhead exerts his different energies in the creation. It is not that he himself is transformed into material creations. He expands himself by his different energies, as well as by his plenary portions. In a corner of the spiritual sky of Brahma Jyoti, a spiritual cloud sometimes appears, and the covered portion is called the Mahatattva. The Lord then, by his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, lies down within the water of the Mahatattva, and the water is called the causal ocean, Karana Jala. While Mahavishnu sleeps within the causal ocean, innumerable universes are generated along with his breathing. These universes are floating and they are scattered all over the causal ocean. They stay only during the breathing period of Mahavishnu. In each and every universal globe, the same Mahavishnu enters again as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu and lies there on the serpent-like Shesha incarnation. From his navel sprouts a lotus stem, and on the lotus, Brahma, the Lord of the universe, is born. Brahma creates all forms of living beings of different shapes in terms of different desires within the universe. He also creates the sun, moon, and other demigods. Therefore, the chief engineer of the material creation is the Lord himself, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, verse 10. It is he who directs the material nature to produce all sorts of moving and non-moving creations. There are two modes of material creation: the creation of the collective universes, as stated above, done by the Mahavishnu, and the creation of the single universe. Both are done by the Lord, and thus the universal shape, as we can see, takes place. Wow, that's definitely not what I was
Yeah.
expecting from the cliffhanger, but
Yeah,
it's
but
a
go ahead and
beautiful
reread
verse.
the translation.
Yes.
Go ahead
Thus,
and
when
reread
all
that.
these became assembled by force of the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universe certainly came into being by accepting both the primary and secondary causes of creation. So I think that is a beautiful scene, that there's a lot of paintings of the Lord, where he's resting in Yoga Nidra in the causal ocean. And even if he seems that he's asleep, he's actually conscious, so he's aware, like even like he knows everything that's happening everywhere. And the Yoga Nidra, that's exactly what that means, conscious yogic sleep. So he's in the causal ocean on the Ananta Shesha, and he's like dreaming these all these universes are floating there, and from his navel comes the lotus flower where Brahma comes out. And this is like a beautiful part of the story. Actually, I really love this story, but it's a real story, so I'm very fond of this pastime of the creation, actually. And then it says there are two modes of material creation: the creation of the collective universes, done by the Mahavishnu, and the creation of the single universe. And both are done by the Lord, and thus the universal shape, as we can see, takes place. So that's what I had to say about this verse.
All right. Let me see if I can add something to that. Well, let's see. The chief engineer of the material creation is the Lord Himself, and He directs this. But He also gives others the how would you say, their particular jobs to do, and it's the fact that he is so relaxed. While this is very something for us to strive for, also just to be relaxed in life. You know, he's controlling everything, but yet he's relaxed about it. He's not, worried about anything, because everything will just work out according to his plan. And in our case, we have to remember that as well in order for us to remain calm, because I know that that we are all suffer from anxiety, but the best way to get over the anxieties is to realize that there's a reason for everything that happens, and that the Lord is in control of it, very calmly in control of it, so that we can be very calmly the receivers of these blessings. And we have to remember that everything that happens is a blessing. Everything, if we devote our service to the Lord, then whatever we receive, no matter, even if it seems like a difficulty, is really a blessing, because it marks our progress on our spiritual path. And I'm not really sure what else to add to this, and I suggest that since it's almost time to end anyhow, that maybe you have a few more words, but that we kind of wrap it up, because we have a meeting
No,
after this.
I'm fine with what you've said and with what I've said. So if you have any announcements that you would like to make, you can do the announcements, and then maybe we
Okay.
can mhm.
Yes. Well, I don't have any specific announcements right now, so I think, other than the fact that we're very pleased with the fact that you're doing some wonderful service of translating of some of the questions and answers that Guru Dev receives, and this is a wonderful service that you're doing, and I'd like to thank you very much, Bhakti and Amy. And now that Guru Dev is here, I think we can close up and move on to our meeting. Thank you.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please receive my humble obeisances.